Can you talk about being okay with missing a trade? So there's multiple answers to this question. First thing is when you come in here every single day and you realize that the goal is to be here in the long term, when you've been sitting here for close to a decade and you see the same thing happening throughout the week, just knowing that there's always going to be an opportunity is key to not forcing yourself into one singular opportunity. Second thing is having justifications to your actions. It is more important to be aligned with your process than to take random trades. Negative reinforcements are going to teach you bad habits. That's why we have reasons how or why we get into trades. Once you understand it's more important to follow the justifications to your actions than it is to be impulsively acting, that's when you build the muscle memory. And when you have the muscle memory, when you're able to point to certain things because certain things happen, that's when you have a clear understanding of the information. You also get to a point where you fail forward so much that you don't want to keep failing. You almost get tired of losing. And when you get to that point, not taking trades, meaning there's no opportunity to lose, is going to end up feeling good. That's not a scared thing. That's not an emotional thing. That's a business thing. The way that I say it when we talk about it is bettering the bottom line. When you realize taking less positions will lead to taking less losses, you're bettering the bottom line. Every time you go in, you're willing to lose X amount of dollars. So the moment you click a button, you are open to losing. If you never click a button, there is no opportunity to lose. So which one's better, making $0 or losing X amount of dollars? Once you realize bettering the bottom line is just as important as increasing the top line, right? Like, let me put it in different business terms. Let's imagine we're running a coffee shop. If you're running a coffee shop and you're buying a product to sell it to your customers, but over a year's worth of data shows you 0 customers have bought this product, do you think the second year you're going to buy that product again? Or are you going to cut that off of your expenses and better the bottom line? I would stop selling that type of coffee. I would go with what works, right? So bettering the bottom line is just as important as increasing the top line. When you've collected enough data to prove that, you'll start to use that in your abilities. Next part of that conversation would be multiple sources of income. Once again, another thing that we talk about here in the community, you should not rely on trading, plain and simple. You should have multiple sources of income. And when you have multiple sources of income, you don't have a need to make money. When you don't have a need to make money, then you'll stop forcing trades. So we do end up talking about these concepts throughout my live streams. I might say them in a different manner, but we do talk about being okay with missing trades in the form of multiple sources of income, in the form of justifications to our actions. You got to realize that there will always be another opportunity. You got to realize that we got to be here in the long term. Choose that over any short-term gratification.